Hello and welcome to the Magnetize Love Show. My name is Barbara Santen and I'm the host. And today we have with us an old friend, 𝗈𝙤𝙜𝙤𝘖𝙜𝙤. Hey.
Hey, I'm so happy to be back in lovely conversation with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you. This is so great to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me back.
My pleasure. I'm just going to share with the audience a little bit about what you do and who you are, and then we're going to dive right into magnetism.
Yes, I love it. Let's do it.
Amazing. So 𝗈𝙤𝙜𝙤𝙜 is an intuitive energy healer, inspirational speaker, and self-love coach. She specializes in helping people transform their dating madness into romantic magic, find their ideal career direction, and up-level their money and abundance. She grew up the youngest of 5 siblings in a single-parent household in Jamaica, Queens, New York. 𝗈𝙤𝙜𝙤 is a former Wall Street financial analyst who traded in her fancy office and masculine power suit for the sweet life of a feminine genius. She founded the company Self-Love Story to help teach people the art of being blissfully feminine to achieve their deepest desires. Her greatest passion is showing you how to love yourself at a deeper level and make self-care a priority. As a love and relationship expert, she uses her intuition and loving guidance to help frustrated singles and couples feel free and delicious in their romantic life. I love it all. And this is how appropriate, right? Because the show is called Magnetize Love, Use the Law of Attraction to Manifest Your Dream Relationship. So lots of questions. First of all, how would you describe and how do you feel about magnetism? What is that?
Yes, that's such a good question. And I love the topic of this show. I'll start with a quote because it's the foundation of all the self-love teaching that I do. And it's a quote by Mark Nepo. And he says, "The flower doesn't dream of the bee. The flower blossoms and the bee comes."
Oh, I love that. That is like basic. Okay, our interview's done.
Yeah, no, really. Okay, done.
Like it.
Go journal about that for 30 minutes and you've got magnetism down. But yeah, just to go a little bit deeper into it, that quote is I talk about flowers and bees all the time with my clients. And I love that because it's like the flowers don't get up on their legs and go chasing the bees to get pollinated. They radiate, they be themselves, they grow at their own pace, and they focus on themselves. Like, I don't know if they focus, but they just be themselves and they bloom in all their glory. And that's what attracts the bees, their natural radiance, their natural magnetism. And so we talk about magnetized love. And this is something that I tell all my clients. And the reason why the core of my work is self-love is because I say, when you are loving yourself and allowing yourself to be exactly who you are without all this criticism, judgment, societal, whatever, that is how you will magnetize everything to you. And that is, I call it like self-love mastery, and it's a practice. And that's essentially what I teach. It has nothing to do with like strategies and tactics, right? Like the flowers, they don't have strategies and tactics. They grow where they grow and they be who they be, and it attracts the right bees. And then they ultimately get the purpose served of being pollinated and continuing on. So that's magnetism. Be yourself.
Right. Okay, so the next question that I'm sure is burning in the minds of our audience is, okay, fine, self-love. So I'm going to go get my nails done and my hair and go to the gym and like work out really hard so that I'm doing self-care. Like, is that it?
So yes and no. So everything that you said, yes, all those things are important and they are a part of self-love, but everything that you said, and a lot of people think like that, it's all outer work.
Yes.
But you've got to supplement it with the inner work, because you can go to the gym every day. You can follow like a super healthy meal plan and still hate yourself on the inside. I see it all the time. I mean, the fitness industry is basically founded on a platform or a foundation of people not loving themselves.
Right.
So I personally gravitate businesses and companies, coaches, healers who come from that foundation. And it's also the reason why I come from that foundation. And so, like a lot of my singles come to me because they're like, I'm dating, I'm doing the dang thing, I'm showing up, I'm being vulnerable. I go on dates, I'm on the apps, I'm swiping, I'm tapping, I'm typing. What's wrong? And it's like, that right there, that energy that you have, there's a found like it's what's underneath the doing is still not a strong enough foundation of the self-love. So I kind of added another word to self-love to kind of create it, to describe the self-love that I do teach, and I call it courageous self-love, because it requires courage and a willingness to look at the darker parts, right? It's easy to say, oh, I need to work out more, I need to go on more dates, I need to get my nails done. Those are easy things to kind of say and admit. But to admit, I need to look at how I'm controlling in relationships and how that might not magnetize the right people, how that actually pushes people away. I'm willing and brave enough to look at all the ways that I am guarded, all the ways that I am judgy, so that the energy people feel that, right? Like, do you think a bee is going to come up to a judgy flower that's going to like, that the bee can feel? And of course, this is an analogy, but
I know.
like if the bee feels like the flower is like, you're not pollinating me right, or like your stripes are weird, like the bee is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go to another flower because there's, or if there's like all these thorns and crazy things like popping out. So that's like a literal description, but we walk around, we go dating, we meet people, and we don't realize we've got all kinds of thorns poking out and sticking out and woundings on the inside that are not, that are going to be the opposite effect of the magnetism that you want. So it's more than just doing the things. You have to also do the inner work to heal, to untangle, to unpack, to empower. And that is the journey.
Okay, so another question popped into my head, which is such a juicy one. I love this topic. Is women like you and me, powerful, strong, we get shit done, right?
Yeah.
We often have this attitude of we'll take it or leave it. Like, you have to, like, men are weak, they can't handle me, like, whatever, like that kind of attitude, because the feminine side feels weak. The femininity, the being, the radiating feels weak because our society tells us that that's not as valuable as a doing action. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that. Like, and it's, like in my bio, it's the reason why that's there, because I was totally that masculine, the power suits, the working on Wall Street, like being a badass. And I learned, so it feels weak. I think the thing that I like to say about it is maybe it's not that it's weak, it's that it's frozen in the masculine a little bit. And so we need to add a little heat, we need to add a little pleasure, we need to add a little desire. And but you're right, we have been conditioned to harden that. And that's the work, that's the courageous self-love work, because to be that flower, that recipient, is vulnerable,
Yeah.
especially in a world that conditions us to be the bee and be the go-getter with the stinger and all of that. But to just be so vulnerable. Okay, so let me paint a scenario for you. Is it more vulnerable to, I mean, we're all recording this, we're in a pandemic, so pretend when we used to be able to sit in a bar. Is it more vulnerable to be in a bar or in a restaurant or at a party and to see someone that you like and to just go for it and be like, hey? Or is it more vulnerable to sit there or stand there in your beauty and like look at this person and kind of give this look of like, yeah, I want you to come to me, like without saying anything, just being. Woo, even just talking about that, that's way
I know.
vulnerable.
So
And
scary.
that's the receiving, that's the flower. It is very scary because, and here's the thing, like, people think like the men, the masculine or the bee goes first, but actually it's the flower is going first, because
Yes.
the flower is choosing to open, the flower is choosing to blossom. And we've got a lot of flowers, to your point of like the women that are like take it or leave it. To me, that's a flower that's still kind of like take it or leave it. Take it or leave it.
Right.
Not like, take it or leave it.
Or
So,
leave it. And I'm still open and amazing and radiant when you leave it, because thank you, next.
yes.
Right?
Yes. And you know what we're saying, it sounds simple in theory, but that's the work. I mean, it's not so simple. Especially because of all the conditioning to harden with the masculine around it. And
Yeah.
so that's where, and it's funny because I talk to men all the time too, because I love hearing men's perspectives. I have a lot of really amazing, awesome guy friends, and just even men that I've dated, like I usually stay friends with them. And, you know, I talk to single guys and they're like, you know, these women, they're kind of aggressive.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with aggressive, but I don't think it necessarily means like on the outside. I think there's an energy. And here's what I say all the time to my clients. And this is being like super heteronormative, but you know, we're going to go with it. But men generally, or I'll say masculine people generally, they actually choose more from their intuition. And especially like women, we're like more in our heads of like, is he right on paper? Does he tick all the boxes? I feel like men naturally feel the energy and trust the energy more than women do. And I think that's what we're speaking about, because when we're conditioned to be these badasses, go-getters, we're taught that our value and our intellect like is the most important thing. But women, we have a natural intuition. It's kind of how we're built, but we don't trust that. It's actually like the men who are trusting that. And I'm totally making a general statement. This isn't everyone, but generally speaking. So it's like they also often can't describe why, but they're just like, these women are aggressive. And I'm like, what do you mean? Are they pushing you up against a wall? And they're like, no, there's just, I don't know, there's just a vibe. So they can't even really explain it. But it's like, I'm thinking of like a flower with like the thorns that are like, love me or else. And like the bees are just like, that's a lot of work. I'm just going to go to the next. And it's a lot of work, but not because you're not worthy. It's because it's like, put the guns down, put the thorns down. Like, so that's really where the mastery comes in. And there's so many different ways. I'm sure people watching this are like, but how? And it's like through practice. I mean, and we can talk a little bit about some of the how, but it's, you know, you're not going to get a quick fix answer, unfortunately. That's just not how it happens in the practice of it.
Yeah. And start today, because time goes by anyway, and you may as well build that muscle, that ability to build upon itself, to open. And, you know, even if it's opening a little bit right now, like the more you do it, the more you can.
And also like start with people who feel safer. So maybe, because here's the thing, like masculine energy, feminine energy, it's all the same. So maybe don't start in a romantic context. Like for me, when I started like the opening feminine, juicy sensuality, pleasure stuff, I didn't go right in with like guys that I thought were hot and wanted to date. First, I started with my family, you know, and that's not like gross or weird, like it's because it's not like romantic, but it was more about an energy I was practicing. So I practiced with my brothers, with my guy cousins, and then with friends, with guy friends who I felt safe with, where there wasn't any weird, complicated, are we dating kind of energy. And just practicing that openness. And for me, it's about talking less and being more. So just like letting men be and opening to receive whatever it is that they bring, you know. And I'm not talking about like abuse or anything, because obviously we don't accept that. But it's more because the opening to the core of it is like trusting yourself, that you don't have to like say the right thing or whatever, that just just think of the flower. The flower's just, and the bee's all like, yeah, I'm going to go to you.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you're saying, you know, don't start in romantic relationships or dating or potential, because what I teach my clients is literally go to Starbucks or go wherever and just like flirt a little, like be a little open, smile and look them in the eye. And you'd be surprised how much they want to give. Like, when I first started practicing this years ago, I was floored at how many extra shots I got for free, like extra shots of like caffeine or like,
Oh yeah, yeah, like at
espresso.
the
Yeah.
cafe.
Yeah. Or like, oh, do you want, they gave a little pastry on the side, like here for you. And you're like, actually, this is amazing, right? But you have to radiate out. You can't be just like on your phone and be like this angry person or angry looking.
Yeah, angry
Be
looking. Yeah.
open, right?
I was just gonna say when you mentioned about this, the cafes, I was like, I've gotten a lot of free stuff that way. I've gotten free
Oh,
ice cream cones. Actually, literally just the other day, because I'm in New York right now, and I moved from California, so I needed to buy boots, and so I went to Kohl's or something, and I was like, I saw 3 boots that I liked, and I was like, oh man, am I really gonna pay full price for all these? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I deserve it. But when I went up to the cashier, they were all on sale, like really, really sale. Like I just like 50, 80% off. And I was so happy. I let myself just radiate. And this is who I am. Like, and I think what you're saying too, like, you're not trying to be performative. Like I'm naturally
right.
bubbly and like silly, but I just radiated that because I was like, that's on sale too. And I was just like so happy. And he was like, normally you have to pay and this is a small thing, but I could tell like I made his day because
Yeah.
he was like, normally you have to pay for the bag, but I'm gonna just give you the bag. And then he like threw in some coupons in there, and then like this like one of those like sock things, like ankle sock things, and he was like, take one of these. And then he was just like, you're really happy. And I was like, I am excited. And so that's an example, or like you said, you get the extra espresso shots or the pastries. I've gotten so the free ice cream cones. Usually it's like I love ice cream. So I allow the pleasure of that to come through, and I like ask to taste different ones, and I'll just be like, ooh, and then I'll say, what do you think? And just like engage. And
Yeah.
again, not in a performative fake way, just like really being open and like being, I guess the best thing would be curious about the other person. So I was like, well, if you were me, what would you pick or something? So like he like puts all the scoops together, and he was like, and then he looks at me, and then he like puts an extra scoop, and then I was like, okay, what's the damage? And he was like, on the house. And I'm just like, cool.
Yeah.
Like,
So
we're magnetic naturally. We're just such amazing magnetic creatures.
I just want to speak to our magnetism is the gift. So we don't have to pay, pay on a date, pay 50-50 because you feel guilty for receiving it all.
Yeah.
Like our magnetism and our presence is the gift. And that is a worthiness issue. If
Yes.
you don't feel that. So that is why what you're saying is work on your worthiness
Yes.
and your self-worth, which I think is the same thing, so that when you do show up on a date in an ice cream shop and you get something for free, you're not like, oh no, I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
That actually hurts the giver. It
Yes.
makes the giver feel like shut down. Would
Yes.
you say? Yeah.
Totally. And it's one of the things that I like to say too to my clients a lot is like how can you tell that someone is good at receiving? Because I think a lot of people might say this too, like I'm bad at receiving. And I'm hearing you say you're inviting everyone to be a better receiver. And the way that you know someone's good at receiving is that it feels good to give to them.
Oh,
Can you
from
imagine? Right. And I think a great way to think about it is with children, because children are kind of like they're so cute, and like I don't know if you have kids or nieces and nephews, but I know for me, especially when a kid is super cute, super everything, I was like, I just want to give you my kidney, my liver, like I want to give you everything. Like I want to buy you all the toys. Because I just want to see the look on your face. And that's the magnetism, that's the joy, that's the openness, that's the presence. And I'm sure anyone watching might have had at least one experience. Can you imagine like giving someone something, whether it's a birthday card or a gift or even a compliment, and the reaction is, or like there's the flinch or the, oh, no, it's okay. Or, oh no, I'm good. It's like, take it. Like I want to give you love, receive it. And so that's another piece about openness too. And, if we want to get really technical, like even with sex, like there's a receiving and there's a giving. And for it to feel good, like you have to be open. Like it can't be like all rigid and thorny and just like not an open space. So there's all different parallels
Yeah.
to these metaphors that we're talking about here.
Yeah, totally. I love that you brought up sex. I've interviewed a bunch of like tantrikas and stuff like that. So we're totally good about that.
Yeah.
Okay, quickly, not quickly. I mean, yes, we're running out of time already, Amelia. This is so crazy.
We have so much fun.
Yeah, I know. So in terms of the law of attraction, so a lot of people think the law of attraction is like you take a picture of a hot guy or a car or a house or this whatever new thing you want, and you just look at it and it'll come to your front door. Can you, and it's like this, like, oh, right? Can you talk to the law of attraction and how you teach your clients what that is and how to use it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you just described it, because I mean, definitely the picture works, but even the energy that you just said, oh, and then he's gonna show up at my front door, like it's the energy is what cuts off like that, because the law of attraction states you visualize it, like you decide, you order from the menu of the universe, depending if you read The Secret or whichever LOA thing you're reading. But first you make the order, right? Okay, so fine, you get the picture, you put it up on the wall, that's you making the order. The second, though, is you have to actually feel what it would feel like. And so the is not what it would feel like.
Right.
So you're already like most people mess up step 2. And step three is you actually have to receive it. So that's back to the flower and the bee. That's back to the opening. That's back to the relaxing. That's back to, I'm sure, what all of your tantrika sex experts on this show have been saying. And that's where people aren't doing it. And that's the inner work. So back full circle to the beginning of our conversation, people are doing the LOA, law of attraction, just doing the doing. Like you can't just cut out something out of a magazine and put it up there while you're feeling like it's not going to happen or while you're not open to receiving it. And here's the thing, most of my clients on the surface, they think they are open and vulnerable, and probably a lot of people watching this show. But we talked about the thorns and the hardness, right? That's where you're not receiving, and that's where like the flower thing comes in. And here's a tip that I'll share. And it was one of my favorite, and I didn't come up with this. It was Dr. Pat Allen. She's another amazing relationship expert, and she just revolutionized my whole thing around feminine and masculine energy. But she says, watch Pretty Woman, the one with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, and forget about the whole prostitute thing. Like that doesn't even matter. She is being the flower and he is being the bee. And if you watch Pretty Woman, especially if you're like the badass go-getters like you and me, and how you and I have had to learn to kind of shed that harder outer shell.
Right.
When Dr. Pat Allen told me to watch that like 6 or 7 years ago, and I'm telling you, the first time I watched it through the lens of the flower and the bee, like the masculine, feminine, I was so uncomfortable because I was like, wow, she is really being so vulnerable and just open. And I'm just like, that's what I need to channel. So definitely when I first started dating, after like learning all this stuff, I channel my Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Like it's good. It's good.
That's
you have to watch it with that lens though, because if you just watch it like as a movie, but watch it with like the flower and the bee in mind, and you see how she is being radiant and magnetizing to him in relationship with him,
right? And
how he is just being the bee because she's radiating and just being so vulnerable and open. And it's just to see the distinction between how I was in dates before watching that in that lens. I was like, oh wow, no wonder men aren't calling me back. No wonder they're not asking me on second or third dates, because I am not being like that. I am, and not being natural and open and receiving. And of course, like a man doesn't want to give to a woman that's not going to receive.
Right.
So that's where the law of attraction comes in. You have to actually receive what you're asking for. And we really don't. And that's the thing. You have to, I'm saying this to all of you watching, like you have to be honest with yourself. Like, are you really receiving what it is you say you want? Yeah.
I love that. And that's such a good, like, quick tip that anybody can do tonight is watch
Yeah.
that movie through this lens now. You've educated
Yeah.
so many people
I'm
around.
excited for all of you. Like, watch the movie, rent it if you have to, and just really like see how she is. Like, she's really, like I said, it was very uncomfortable for me at first to watch it because I'm like, ooh, no wonder no one likes me.
Right.
And it's not that they don't like us, it's that like
The energy.
and yeah, think of even being on the giving side. Like, we naturally move away from people who aren't going to receive us because it's like walking into a brick wall.
Yeah.
And that's what I see a lot of women and well, just men, anyone, but anyone that's asking, how do I magnetize love with the law of attraction? You're asking that question because at some level, you're being some level of a brick wall in your energy and in your vibe. And, you know, there's a lot of ways to kind of heal that and change that. But first it starts with awareness. So I think the first thing is to be aware of it, and then hire a coach or a healer to help you work through
Yeah,
it.
for sure. For sure. Because you can't see past your own blind spots. That's
Oh yeah,
yeah.
for sure. A million
And I
percent.
love that you said, I teach this too, is to visualize, but not just in your vision, use all your senses, including feeling, because feeling is the language of the subconscious mind, and the subconscious runs the show.
Yes.
If your subconscious thinks you're not worthy, but you're visualizing a perfect guy, it's not going to match. So you want to program your subconscious mind to believe the feeling of this person.
Yes, that's so good, and that really is the practice, and that is the feeling of the worthiness. And the one thing I want to say too is we are more comfortable with the sensation of the yearning for something than we are with the sensation of the having it.
Ooh.
And so that's why we create more yearning instead of having. And so, to what your point is, practice the feeling of it because you're practicing the having of it. Because if you can't hold the sensation of the having of so much goodness, vulnerability, whether it's money, whether it's the hot guy or whatever, then you're going to naturally repel it because the energy, like you said, the energy doesn't match, and you need to be a vibrational match. And like we're saying, those are the steps that people, they think they're doing it, but they're actually skipping it or getting it wrong. And again, don't like shame yourself if you're getting it wrong. It's practice. Like, I'm telling you, before I met my last partner, I would drive around in my car and I would literally have my hand like in the passenger side and like feel the feeling. Cause one of the, like, I tried to hold on to one feeling and I was just like, okay, I want to be cruising around with my boo, like up and down the California coast and just being like, la, 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 whatever. Right. And then obviously I would also want him to drive, but like I was single. So like while I'm driving, I would literally like put my hands there and like feel it. Like I would be like, what would it feel like to have that hot guy sitting there and be like, this is my man? And see, even now I'm getting all excited just like being in it. And you've got to do that. And I think people are like, oh, that's corny or whatever. And it's like, no, it's energy. Like you're here to think about, to learn about magnetism and law of attraction. Like you need to be that energy to receive it, or else you're going to repel it. Either you're receiving or you're repelling. And there's no in between, really.
Oh, I love that. I love that analogy because people may not understand how to create that feeling. So just pretend like you're walking down the street and pretend you have someone next to you walking with you and what that feels like, or driving or having dinner, and close your eyes and just feel, don't close your eyes while driving, and having dinner, close your eyes and just feel what it would feel like to have that amazing partner eating dinner with you.
And it's a fun game to play and also I think it helps you realize how powerful you are, because it's like, I can create this feeling out of thin air. And so that's like the answer, like magnetism, law of attraction, you create the feeling. And then once that feeling becomes your natural feeling, or like your more practiced feeling, like as we say, then it can finally be magnetized to you. And I'm all about magnetism. Like I like lazy manifestation. That's my jam.
Yeah.
I don't like to hustle and go for things. Like that's not, the feminine genius doesn't do that.
No, us goddesses, we just magnetize.
Exactly.
Well, we're way over time. I could talk to you forever. You have for our audience a gift. Can you share with us what that is?
Oh, absolutely. And so just to tie it back to everything we've been talking about, there's the outer work, there's the inner work. The outer work, printing out the picture, going on the dates, going on the apps, etc. The inner work is practicing the feeling and all of that. And throughout like my 3 decades of studying love and relationships, I mean, I've been studying relationships since I was a little girl. I have found that there are 5 main deceptions that are blocking you from an inner work perspective. So the gift that I'm giving goes through what those deceptions are and how to unblock yourself from them, how to untangle, how to heal. So it's much of the deeper inner stuff that I was talking about. And yeah, it's a beautiful, gorgeous 22-page PDF that goes through each deception and the healing, and also how I've helped a client get through that deception. So maybe you can relate. And so yeah, definitely download it. And you'll also get a lot of just like free self-love and relationships dating content with that. So enjoy.
Wow. Thank you for your generosity. That's just amazing. I love it. Any closing thoughts?
Yes, I would say you are worthy. And even if you fake it till you make it right now, if you lead with that, with any interaction you have, men or women, like you will start to, or even just having the intention of practicing that you're worthy and deserving of the love you desire, your subconscious will get on board. You just have to, it's a practice, right? So yeah, you are
Oh,
worthy. If you're watching this, you're totally the cream of the crop. So congratulations. You're that much closer to finding your love.
thank you, Amelia, so much for coming on and taking the time to speak to me and our audience.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and again and again. And thank you to the audience as well for showing up. You're really showing up for yourself. And even just watching a video here and there or all of them, you're going to get so much information like you did today. So thank you for watching. There are so many more amazing interviews to come, and I will see you there. So bye for now.
Bye.